Canada's automotive soul has always been linked to the Detroit Three, but as the world pivots towards electric vehicles, that lifeline is beginning to fray. High costs, constant tariff threats, and political changes has meant that the Detroit of the North is beginning to suffer, but that can soon all change. Across the Pacific, China has become the undisputed king of the EV and the undisputed king of automotive manufacturing. Hello and welcome back to Simply Greg Sir EV. The last few days have been very busy here on the channel, as you can see, with all the announcements and all the news of Chinese electric vehicles coming to Canada. 49,000 vehicles the first year, 50% of those have to be under $35,000. Today we're going to actually take a look at what it could mean to actually build those electric cars here one day. I came across an article on the CBC where it actually mentioned that Canada wants to be first in North America to build an EV with Chinese knowledge. So Chinese platform, Chinese battery, basically Chinese tech underneath the car with possibly rebodied, that sort of thing. It would not be the first time that a country has done this, purchased a vehicle from somewhere else and then called it their own. So we're going to take a look at that today to just go over some of what's involved, how it could benefit us, how to navigate the political landscape, but also what Chinese EV factories are these days. I think it will surprise you how China builds cars for the most part. Some of you might know already, some of you might not know, but we will get into it. So basically, in terms of a country, automotive manufacturing in Canada, I believe, is around 20-25% of our total GDP. We have Honda, Toyota, GM, Stellantis. I can go on and name a few more. We had Ford. I don't think Ford has produced a car here in a while. That is as far as my understanding. So Canada does make a lot of cars, over 2 million cars a year. And we're only getting about up to 70,000 of the Chinese EVs by the end of the decade. And half of those, as I mentioned, will have to be under $35,000. Well, what would bring a Chinese manufacturer here? Well, one, if they build the car here, they don't have to worry about the tariff side of things. The tariff is still at 6.1%, but they could go ahead and sell over that 70,000 unit limit. But also Canada itself, we're kind of sitting on a gold mine of raw materials, specifically the raw materials you need to build the bodies, to build the batteries, to build the components, cheap power rates as well, a workforce, not so much on the assembly side, let's say, because I think a lot of people focus on the jobs in the actual automotive plants, but also the engineering aspect, the supply chain. We have serious companies such as Multimatic and Magna that do suspension systems, that do the engineering side, tool and die makers that can supply automotive glass. We have a whole industry here, and I would not even call it a cottage industry to supply automotive manufacturing. It is quite a large industry. It makes up a huge amount of our GDP. So now, instead of having to ship raw materials to China to have it processed, like let's say aluminum from Quebec, it doesn't need to go on a train across the country and get loaded up on a ship and end up in China. We could all do that locally in terms of building. And for the most part, we don't really have a huge electric car scene in terms of manufacturing here. I actually wrote down some notes, and the CBC posted the article here. And it's just going over the usual stuff. There's really nothing mentioned, but there is traction that's starting to gain building Chinese electric cars here, whether it's going to be under a startup brand that's specifically founded in China, or personally, I think it's going to be one of the Chinese manufacturers, probably BYD or Leap Motor through Stellantis. That's just my opinion on the subject. It would be really interesting if we can actually build a sub $35,000 EV in Canada that's actually good. Building cheap cars, weirdly enough, is quite difficult for manufacturers, especially from a profit point of view. generally in North America, small, cheap cars have never brought in a lot of money, and in many cases they have lost money. And EVs in general, we all know that a lot of companies are struggling to profitability on the EV aspect. But it's a whole transitional phase that we're going through. One of the vehicles that interests me the most here, that I think that we don't talk about enough, and hopefully in the future we will, is this Project Arrow. So Project Arrow is a Canadian-led EV project that was started, I believe, last year by the Automotive Parts Manufacturer Association of Canada. And it basically takes the inspiration and name from the Avro Canada CF105 supersonic Mach 2 interceptor from the late 50s that sadly ended in cancellation in February of 1959, otherwise known as Black Friday. The Arrow, or the CF105, stirs up, especially for an aviation geek like me, a lot of emotions, and there's a lot of people that consider that like peak Canada, peak Canadian engineering. So they took that name and they made a concept electric vehicle, and it's basically a homegrown project. Everything in the car, as my understanding, was made in Canada. So that's something that we can look forward to. Here's a couple photos I threw in and whatnot. But I believe what's not spoken about enough, I don't think a lot of people in Canada understand how Chinese car factories and how Chinese car companies work. Chinese companies themselves, especially the automotive industry, they rely on huge subsidies. I mean, it's really not that different to a lot of our manufacturing industries, where there's tax credits, direct subsidies, so on and so forth being plowed into the industry. China's much the same on that aspect. So that's one elephant in the room. But these companies such as Geely, BYD, and all their sub-brands, they're very vertically integrated. That means that they control pretty much their entire supply chain. They're controlling the factories, they're controlling the component manufacturer, they're controlling, even in some cases, where they get their tires from. And they do everything in-house. They build their own batteries, they build their own platforms, they build their own motors, pretty much the same as Tesla. Tesla's a perfect example of vertical integration. Lucid is a perfect example of that. Rivian is another perfect example. So all these startup green energy EV manufacturers, they're very vertically integrated. They control their supply chains. And this is where Canada is what we're good at, is we have a lot of companies that control the supply chain with parts. So you have companies like Magna, so on and so forth, etc. on that. But China also runs something called dark factories. So a dark factory, it's a highly automated factory, tons of robots inside, and it's really that. The lights are dimmer. In some cases, all you see is welding sparks because the place is pitch black, and there's a very little amount of human involvement with building the car. I'll give you an example. So the Honda plant in Ontario, I believe, has just under 5,000 people working there in the total assembly plant. But at the Zeekr factory, it's a dark factory. There's, I believe, is my understanding, there's less than 800 people. So that's something to keep in mind, is that it might not necessarily bring the jobs here. And those people who work in those dark factories, they're essentially only there for maintaining the equipment or doing specialized assemblies, such as building wiring looms, building more complex assemblies. But gigapressing, automated robots, well, automated robots have been around in automotive manufacturing since the late 70s, but the entire process is pretty much controlled by AI and automation. And it's something to keep in mind. If one of these factories were to come to Canada and be built, it would probably be a dark factory, or there would be some sort of agreement for minimum amount of employment at the factory. The other thing I want to talk about is one of the second elephant in the room. There's a lot of elephants in the room. Is we have certain political figures that, well, have liked to talk and maybe sometimes hear the sound of their own voice, specifically in Ontario. And their concerns are where the data collected from these cars is going to be stored. this is a valid concern. It's a totally valid concern. Manufacturers, cars themselves these days, they're pretty much smart cars. They're software-defined vehicles. And there have been cases recently with manufacturers selling that data collected from the cars to insurance companies, data brokers, sending you adverts in your car on your screen. I got one in my Fiat 500e from Stellantis saying, hey, we're offering good deals on Dodge Rams. I don't know why they would target that towards me. But it's where this data, where is it being stored? How is it being collected? What are they doing with it? There's a lot of uncertainty with that. Is it being stored on Chinese government servers? Is it being rerouted through Chinese servers back to the manufacturers? I think it's a valid concern. I just want to go out there shouting it from the rooftops. This is something that can be negotiated at a political level. And I did read an article recently from Geely where they said if they were to sell cars in the United States, they would probably have that data stored in American data centers. And it's a much as similar story to what happened with TikTok. For some reason, they really want that data in the US. It's a valid concern. I can't knock it. We're all kind of getting tired of our data being sold, and next thing you know, you're on a call list or being exploited somewhere. So that's something that's interesting. The other issue that I want to talk about is, well, what happens to the current industry here? The Canada-US-Mexico agreement, it's up for renewal soon, and this is going to be a huge can of worms. I try not to get into the political spectrum here, but I don't expect it to go well for Mexico or Canada. And Mexico is one of those countries where Chinese EV manufacturers, BYD specifically, is looking at building a factory. Canada has a trade mission to Mexico next month, so this might come up there. I'm not too sure what's going to happen there. But I don't think the United States is going to be very happy with a Chinese manufacturer operating here. I don't think the US is going to be very fair in their renegotiation of the Canada-US-Mexico agreement, but that's my opinion, and that's the other elephant in the room, is that we can't avoid that. What could happen is if Canada does start inviting in Chinese manufacturers on a large scale, is the US could actually threaten just to close the border to all car exports, period. And Toyota and Honda have big manufacturing outfits here specifically for export. The Toyota factory is in Cambridge, Ontario, and the Honda factory is just outside Barrie in Alliston. And a lot of those cars, most of those cars get exported into the US market. So that's something to keep in mind as well. What I also want to say is that from the affordability price side, it just doesn't seem like we ever got under, in Canada, that $60,000 range. And I keep talking about the affordability. I read all the comments on these videos. I'm active in the industry. I speak to people out at work. I speak to people out who ask me questions about electric cars, and we never seem to got to that magical $35,000 price point. The cheapest I ever seen a car here, an EV new, was a Model 3 rear drive when we had the full $12,000 credit in Quebec. And I think the cheapest I saw one was like $39,998, like, because it was a demo model with a few thousand kilometers on it. It's not going to be an easy transition is what I'm saying. Personally, for me, we should maybe, as we're working with the Chinese government and bringing in cars and possibly setting up manufacturing here, what happened to that European aspect from Renault, from even Stellantis on that side? Actually, just to mention them again, the Chinese EV deal is going to benefit Stellantis more than I think people think. And I'm just going to say Leap Motor is the third largest EV manufacturer in the world, and they have a joint venture together. So don't count out Stellantis. Don't throw Stellantis out under the bus, as many people do. But I lost my train of thought here. The whole aspect of the affordability side of the EV, we just never got to that price point, and it was frankly never going to happen. You're not going to start selling Ford Mustang Mach-E's at 35 grand and taking an even bigger loss on them. So something had to give in that regard. But I think we can definitely do a Chinese factory here, whether we bring cars down in a full knockdown kit. I don't think that's going to happen. I think we'll prefer to have a dark factory running versus bringing in a knockdown kit that we just screw together. Renault actually tried this, and the Peugeot in the 60s in Quebec. If you don't know, there was a company called SOMA, Société Automobile Canada or whatever, and they actually built knockdown kits of Renault, Peugeot, and Citroën here, just south of Montreal. They built them up until, I believe, 1973, 74, and that ended in a strike, as many things do with car manufacturing, and ends up in a strike, so they closed it. But we have done this knockdown kit before through SOMA back in the day. I think that's going to cover everything. I'm just going through my list here. It was mainly the CBC article I was reading. I don't think I needed to make this an overly done production. All the viewers, all the new subscribers seem to be enjoying these sit-down talks, giving my thoughts where we're going to end up with this. But I have a funny feeling these cars are going to be very popular here in Canada. And I have a funny feeling there's going to be an investment in some sort of manufacturing here and some sort of investment in charging infrastructure, whether it's if we're building cars in some capacity, if we're building charging infrastructure in some capacity. I know some of you might be saying, we've already plowed so much money into this EV scheme or green scam where we're not seeing anything out of it. I don't think the previous administration went about it properly, and this is what I was always scared about. If you just start throwing money around to everywhere, you don't actually have a cohesive plan of what's going on, nothing's going to be achieved. Look at Northvolt here in Quebec. That should be another video for a day. I keep debating, do I do a Northvolt topic and Lion Electric? The Ford battery plant in Bécancour, I think that's still on hold, or the mineral processing plant they wanted to build. The Volkswagen plant in Ontario, battery plant, and the Stellantis battery plant, I don't know what's going on with those anymore at this point. But I do agree, Canada, previous administration, went about it completely wrong. We tariffed the cars. We tariffed Chinese imports that we were only bringing in about 50,000 cars a year. So this new agreement just puts us back to what we were bringing in a few years ago. Then we threw all this money around into battery manufacturing and processing and haven't seen anything from it. In fact, Quebec wrote off $1 billion, nearly $1 billion of loss on that, which I think from day one was a terrible deal investing in Northvolt. Then now it seems to be a better structured plan, a more cohesive plan on how we're going to go about this. I'm excited. There's been a bounce in my step since Friday morning. That's why I've been putting out a lot of these videos, these sit-down videos, just to give you my thoughts. And I do have some experience with the Chinese cars, and they've all been positive so far. Are they the best? No, absolutely not. But they're not terrible either. I've driven a lot worse stuff from locally based outfits. Political side we covered. I just want to also touch back to that 40,000 limit. Certain political figures and groups and unions are saying, oh, this is the end of Canadian manufacturing. Well, I don't think it's the end, but I also don't think the United States will be particularly fair of us giving us a, quote, deal. So we have to look for other avenues of keeping manufacturing open. And if China's willing to invest and to spend the money and to build a good relationship, well, why not? Sometimes the best deal is the one that's directly in front of you. And I think we're going to end the video off at that. And we'll see you in the next one. Bye for now. Thank you for watching. Thanks to all our new subscribers. See you next time.